biggest Team USA watch party around at Sports and Social on Wednesday, July 1st at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Let's talk about that matchup and everything else in the round of 32 at the World Cup. Joining us now, he has been traveling around. I know he's in Foxborough today to see the Germans. He's covering for Field Level Media as well as Forbes and Deadspin, among others. He's our friend Ian Nicholas Quillen, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Ian, it's Glenn. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Of course. Happy to be here.
32, now 31 teams remaining in the World Cup. How many of these 31 teams could end up hoisting the trophy here in a couple of weeks, Ian?
Well, I mean, you know what we talked about last time I was on, that a long shot will definitely do it. So it's definitely more than 7 or 8. It's probably more like, similar to an NCAA tournament, you probably look like 12 or 14 teams that if everything went right, they could do it. Probably 6 or 7 have much stronger chances than others. But I think it's, especially with, the added round and the fact that so many of these matches, go to extra time and eventually penalties, which is basically a coin flip. Like, I think it's, I think it's more open than people think.
Or at this point, it feels like everybody's just scoring in stoppage time. Like, it just feels like that's the bit now, is that you just get all the goals between 90 and 98 or whatever it ends up being. Ian,
let me tell you this, writers love that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, hang on. You say that, but like the match is going to end in the knockout rounds. You can't be writing your story like yesterday. They couldn't be writing a story. It was 0-0 at that point.
No, of course, you just, that was, and it's funny you mentioned that. I was helping out with a live blog, and I was ready to just put 50 words up about, nope, nothing decided. We're going to go to extra time, and then of course, Steven Eustachio comes through, and all of a sudden everything changes.
Is the U.S. one of those 11 or 12 teams?
I think so. Okay. I'm not saying. I mean, they're toward the bottom of that list. They're not, they're not on par with a Spain or a France or an Argentina or a Brazil, but they're, if everything goes right, home field advantage, it's possible. It's not, again, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's not stupid, as I've said before, to think about it.
Is there anything to be said about what happened is Thursday as simple as this was an exhibition? It wasn't, most of the guys are going to be out there. We know that a few, Pulisic in the second half, Weston McKennie for the better part of the match. Is it utterly dismissible, or is there some concern that you take from that?
I mean, the only concern I have is not something that it's not represented so much by the result, but just by the continuing pattern is this team can't keep clean sheets. And you're going to have to do that at some point to win a game in the knockout phase. But that's not necessarily whether they won or lost. It's just that they keep giving up goals. So I don't know that the performance in itself is a concern, but it does show that, the depth in defense in particular is kind of shaky.
I'm hoping that it means that you don't have to have Scally on the pitch at any point, with all due respect. I just think that maybe is the lesson that I take, is that hopefully he's not playing a significant minute between now and whenever this ends.
I think that's fair, although I will be honest, that day was a very long day for me, and I fell asleep at halftime, which I've never done at a in a U.S. World Cup game before.
Oh, boy. Let me stay on the U.S. for a minute, just in general, Ian. The performances have, at least offensively, been very good, to your point. They have scored lots of goals. How much of that is about the U.S.? How much of that is about the teams that they have played to this point?
I think it's pretty 50-50. Under Berhalter, they certainly did not generate the amount of chances that their possession and that the positions they got in should have merited. I think it certainly is a Pochettino specialty to be able to generate chances and to have teams that are forward thinking. I think it's not just opponents, it's game states, right? So for example, that Paraguay game could have gone much differently if they don't get the first goal early. That Australia game could have gone much differently if they don't get the first goal early. But, it's similar to like a football team that likes to keep it on the ground. If they get down by 2 touchdowns, all of a sudden they're in a lot of trouble. And that's what Paraguay and Australia found themselves in.
Is there, you bring up obviously the inability to keep a clean sheet. That, as we point out, those aren't the guys that are going to be out there. But in general, How concerned are you about their defense, their back end? Look, Chris Richards has been phenomenal. I think Alex Freeman has been even better than we could have expected, given his youth and experience coming into the tournament. But between that and what's in goal, I feel like it's reasonable to be very concerned about the defense and the goalkeeping when you're facing the best teams in the world.
I mean, at this point, you can't do anything to fix it, right? Like, you can be concerned, but there's not any adjustments you can really make. You just basically have to hope that, I think the big thing is it's depth in defense, right? Like, the U.S. doesn't have a replacement for a Chris Richards that can give you even 80% of what he gives. They don't have a replacement for Tyler Adams that can give you even 80% of what he gives in defensive midfield. So I think, if I'm a manager, the one thing I'm really, really focusing on is keeping those guys as healthy and as wear-free as possible on the days that they're not playing, because you don't have much defensive depth.
It's interesting. That's a really good point. He is Ian Nicholas Quillen, and he is with us here on GCR, live from Foxborough, getting ready for another knockout round matchup later this afternoon. Ian, who has most looked the part to you so far in this tournament? Like, who, again, just through the 3 group stage matches and acknowledging that some of these groups have not maybe been the groups of death that we've experienced in the past because of the expansion to 48, but who has most to you looked the part of, oh, that's a team that's going to go win the World Cup?
I think for me, it's France and Brazil. I've seen both of those teams in person twice, which is kind of weird. With France, one of the things that I think is really underrated in this tournament is, for as many expectations as are on them, they sort of don't have a lot of pressure. Didier Deschamps is done, no matter how this tournament goes. This is the end for him. He's been there almost 16 years.
Yeah.
So, and the amount of quality they have on the pitch, I mean, they definitely have the most talented roster. I don't think anybody argues that. They from 1 to 26, they have the most talent. And they've got, I think Mbappe has kind of come to this World Cup intent on improving that he's not the problem at Real Madrid, as much as people want to make him the problem. So when you have a superstar who is in the prime of his career, who's also very motivated, that's an extremely dangerous quality. With Brazil, what I was really impressed about, particularly in their match against Scotland, is you always think of Brazil as being the free-flowing attacking team, but they are so athletic, and they can actually really get after it defensively under Carlo Ancelotti. They don't have the most talent technically compared to even a Spain or an Argentina, but I'm just really impressed with how they work for that manager, and they've also got something to prove.
What about the other side? Like, who's the team that maybe like we thought was a legitimate contender coming in that to you has looked the most fraudulent and you have the most questions about going into the knockout round?
I don't know that I've had anything that changed between the group stage and the knockout round. I think it's pretty clear a side like Croatia has passed its peak, even though they looked good in their finale.
Specifically, Luka Modric.
Yeah.
I mean, he just I didn't want to believe it after the first one, but then I'm like, oh my God, man. Like it's sad because it's Luka Modric you're talking about.
And they could win a game or two, but their window is closed, and that's okay. England is still England, and just that the amount of pressure they put on themselves and that nation puts on themselves seems to limit everything they ever try to do. The talent is obviously there, but I think it was almost a curse in disguise to start as well as they did, and everybody sort of think, oh, wow, this is going to be a different England team. And then, of course, they struggle through a 0-0 draw against Ghana that they probably should have lost because there was a penalty that did not go called there. And then, Panama, who I have a lot of respect for, made things extremely difficult on them in their group finale. Argentina is interesting to me because there's some medium groups and some poor groups, but they really got an easy draw. So I just wonder what happens when they face somebody who can actually sort of physically give them problems.
Let's go to the other side of, is there a team that you wouldn't have thought of necessarily as a title contender that after watching them, Bruce Murray was trying to sell me on Japan maybe as being this team, someone that you are buying into more, not just that they're playing well, like Not that like, hey, Cabo Verde is a great story, but that
Right,
like,
right.
legitimately is proving to be a potential contender to get all the way to the final.
Japan's really interesting. They play such a different style from what I mean, the way that they can keep the ball and keep possession is almost like it's like East Asia's version of Spain. It's incredible. That said, I think they're going to have problems when you get to sort of the latter stage, dark arts centric portion of the tournament. I don't know that favors them very well. I'm curious to see whether they get past Brazil. I think that's a particularly tough match for them. It sounds weird to be calling them a dark horse because they've won the thing 4 times, but Germany's just Germany, man. Like, they don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that Ecuador thing aside, like, they were playing for nothing. They already had the group wrapped up. Ecuador was playing for its tournament life. Like, they don't screw up, like they don't. And that's so much of short tournament success is not beating yourself.
I agree. By the way, the Ecuador thing might have been. I mean, I was emotional watching it. Like, it was just so. I'm torn. I've actually had this conversation a few times during the Cup. I hated the 48 team thing until watching it and saying I think it's been great for getting more countries fired up, allowing the superstars to look more like superstars against lesser.
That's a great point.
And getting that gives broader excitement to the World Cup, because now it's not even necessarily about your country. It's just about seeing all of the superstars shine when maybe people haven't been paying attention to the sport. I hate now. I get it that it turns into, we've had more of these like third group stage matches where a team just doesn't care whatsoever. And like, I get that there's complications to it, but I have actually sold myself on, no, the 48 team thing is working, and it's probably good for the sport and for the World Cup on the whole.
Well, and if you really want to get into the weeds, there's ways that you could do a 48 team tournament that would be a little more competitive if you switched what is currently the group phase to more of a league phase, the way the Champions League does. You could certainly have 48 teams and take 24 instead of 32, or take 16 instead of 32, or however you wanted to do it. There's ways to tweak this thing that I think could make it even more compelling while being more accessible.
I think 16 is too few. Like, that's what jumps out at me, is that's too few. But I think that you're right.
I personally like 24, and the idea that also that if you get that break, that your cards also wipe out for the teams that get a bye.
Okay, so that sort of counts as a bonus match. I like that. Then you actually have a real reason to go for it, even if you've already
exactly.
I like the thought on that. I think that's good. I'll go back to the U.S. just for a second, because I think everybody's almost like assuming that they're going to get past Bosnia and that it'll be Belgium in the round of 16. So let's go twofold on this. One, like, is it a certainty that they get past? And is it a certainty that they get past? And certainty is the wrong word, because nothing's a certainty. But is it that likely, overwhelmingly likely, that they get past Bosnia? And then, okay, start there, and then we'll talk about Belgium.
Well, I think it's certainly an ideal team to play when your questions are on defense.
Okay.
Bosnia offers very little going forward. They don't scare me. They did score against Canada, but I'm not, if the USA goes out against Bosnia, it won't be because they got outscored. It's because they couldn't find a goal and then they lost on penalties.
And that stuff, that can happen. That's the way the sport works.
Right.
If it does end up being Belgium, and I acknowledge they also have to get past Senegal, like, where are we with the disappointment of Belgium? Like, how I still have, like, I've never gotten over 2014, and I think about Chris Wondolowski way too much in my life. Like, it is kept a space in my brain that it has not deserved, Ian, for someone who, is not even, I'm not even like a soccer all the time person, you know what I mean? Like, I have thought about it constantly. I think of Belgium as a legit power. They have let me down. I had them in our pool, and they have been a disaster. At this point, like, would you favor the U.S. against Belgium, or is that going too far if that's where we end up?
I would put it as pretty much a pick 'em. I think. I don't think I'd favor them, but I wouldn't call them an underdog either. A lot of the faces on that Belgium team are kind of old, and home field matters a lot. And Belgium isn't a team that's going to draw an enormous amount of fans to counter the U.S. fan influence you're going to have there as well. And then 1 through 11, I don't think there's a ton of difference. I think on a neutral field, you'd favor Belgium, but when you factor in the home crowd, I think I'd call it a pick 'em.
Wow.
Belgium's weird, man. It's almost like that, they beat us and we can't stop thinking about Chris Wondolowski. But if you ask a Belgian fan, the last 10, 12 years have just been sheer misery, and it almost becomes self-fulfilling at some point. And to be honest, I'm not that sure they get past Senegal. I think Senegal could give them a lot of problems.
Wow. That is.
I think they should be favored, but I think Senegal could give them a lot of problems, and especially a team that, sort of wasn't sure if they were going to get through, and then had that last life and put a bunch of goals past Iraq to suddenly, have some confidence. I wouldn't want to be the Belgians right now.
That's wild. That is wild. All right, Ian, where are folks following you? Where are they seeing your work? Give me the whole rundown.
So lots of stuff on Field Level Media on the website. I do a ton of their World Cup content. Also, that stuff ends up on AOL sometimes. On Deadspin, I'm doing some World Cup betting content, rooting for Vinicius Jr. to score the first goal today. Ooh. He is very good early in games, which I've seen. And also Forbes.com. Follow me on Twitter at Yak Diesel, which is like Shaq, except it's an I instead of an SH. On Twitter or X or whatever you call it. And and occasionally my stuff is showing up on Reuters on their wire too. So.
Excellent. Ian, always appreciate you, man. I'm going to be away for a little bit, but hopefully before this is all said and done, I'll be able to get you back in here. Thank you for taking the time.
We've still got 3 weeks.
It is, and hopefully, what I'm really rooting for is a crazy scenario where I go away for 2 weeks and somehow the U.S. is still alive when I come back.
Feel free to dream. Feel free to dream.
Man, I'll breathe it in. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for doing it.
Have a good one, guys.